Iowa coach reveals exciting offer from Fever star Caitlin Clark. Iowa Hawkeyes women's basketball coach Jan Jensen had one of the toughest jobs in college hoops last season. But it helps to know Caitlin Clark. In her first season as Iowa head coach, Jensen had to lead the Hawkeyes forward following the departures of all-time leading scorer Clark and longtime coach Lisa Bluder, who was with the Hawkeyes for 24 seasons. Jensen, the former associate head coach under Bluder, spearheaded a 23-11 campaign that included an upset win over number 4 USC in February and a trip to the second round of the NCAA tournament. On Monday, she revealed that her success in year one was aided by an unexpected offer from Clark. Jensen joined her local ABC station for OnIowa Live, an in-depth interview highlighted by the untold story about the Indiana Fever superstar. Clark was planning to be in Iowa City for the game against National Player of the Year JuJu Watkins and USC on February 2nd, because she was getting her Iowa jersey retired at Carver-Hawkeye Arena. Before that game, Jensen recalls, about 10 days before, Caitlin says, "Hey, do you want me to practice?" And I said, "Don't tease me." "No, for real," Clark insisted, according to her former coach. "I could be JuJu." Jensen said she was thrilled by the offer, made possible by a recent NCAA rule change that allows alumni to practice with their former teams. She turned Clark's homecoming into an unmissable event, inviting Bluder and several recruits to watch the practice. According to Jensen, the WNBA star mimicked Watkins pretty well, but threw in a few of her legendary logo shots to keep the Hawkeyes on their toes. Clark's scout team duties paid dividends for Iowa, who honored the program legend with a 76-69 win. Watkins had 27 points, but the Hawkeyes held her to 8-4, 22 from the field, and just won 4-7 from deep. Clark will return to the main court at Carver-Hawkeye Arena on May 4th, when the Indiana Fever will take on the Brazil national team in an exhibition game in front of the Iowa fans and a national television audience ahead of the 2025 WNBA season.
Caitlin, you may be in Indiana now, but you're always a Hawkeye.
Our game plan was great, and obviously USC. Good luck the rest of the way. I'm a big fan of all of you. And JuJu, Ross, and USC did a great job. So fun to be here and watch you guys. I'm pretty overwhelmed right now, but there's just a lot of people to thank. First of all, my teammates. I wouldn't be here without any of you. And give it up for the Fever. We're winning game right now.
When Caitlin came back for her jersey ceremony, and what the freshmen thought, because the other ones had played with her, except for Lucy.
Right.
And then also USC sitting on the bench during that ceremony was one of the classiest things I've ever seen. And it really, I think Lindsey Gottlieb is a rock star in this profession, as is JuJu Watkins. But I guess just kind of that day from the perspective.
Well, it was fun. You know, Caitlin, you know, we keep in touch, obviously, and text each other when you see something fun or something great happens, or just need some encouragement both ways. I think Kate and Caitlin, Megan Gustafson, I mean, they still text me all the time. Usually when the chips are down, right? That's when people they're like, "Hey, you got this." You know, it's just such a beautiful thing about the player-coach relationship is when they're living it with you. But before that game, about 10 days before, Caitlin says, "Hey, you want me to practice?" And I said, "Don't tease me, you know." She's like, "No, for real." She's like, "You know, it'll help me, you know, get in shape." And she's like, I could be JuJu. I said, "Heck yeah." They changed the rule a few years ago. Your alumni could not practice before. But then they changed it so when they come back, they can come in the game. So I didn't tell our players until the day before. And I said, "Oh, by the way, tomorrow we're going to have an extra practice player, and it's going to be Caitlin." And they're like, "What?" Kind of looking, and then they're trying to be kind of cool, you know. But they loved it. I mean, during the practice, they were really, you know, cool, and Caitlin was stroking it from 40 and, just doing amazing things. And it was fun for all of us. I invited Lisa and Jenny to come back, Lisa Bluder and Jenny Fitzgerald, to come to the practice. They never really come to practice. And we had some recruits in town, right? But there were different things that everybody had to stop what Caitlin did.
Yeah.
And, she did make she did do JuJu pretty well, but no one's Caitlin, right?
Yeah. But
it was really fun for Lucy Olson. Lucy told me afterwards, she's like, that was awesome. She's like, I was so nervous, but it was so awesome. So you forget, right? I mean, Caitlin is Caitlin, and it resonates. So that was really, really fun.
Yeah.
Scott mentioned moving on from the Caitlin Clark era, and you mentioned it throughout the season and doing that, but was that something that had to start internally for kind of the outside world to kind of pick up? And then how did you approach that with your team?
I think that was, as coaches, you do get that more than a fan, because that's what we do. Every year you lose if you do it right, a special class. Whether it has Caitlin in it or no Caitlin in it, you're in the locker room, blood, sweat, and tears, and you've been with them for 4 years, so that emotion is always pretty raw. But you understand you have to turn the page. So we're typically more prepared and well-versed in that than fans, even though that they are. But, man, those magical moments, it's just hard to let go because it was so fun. But then when you have a person like Caitlin, I mean, arguably the greatest of all time in certain ways. Certainly, what I think made Caitlin, everybody always asks me, like, whoa, why? Why was she just so magnetic? Why was she, the one? She was the only one that did something that only one other was doing, and that was Steph Curry. That's the end of story to me. Steph Curry was the greatest range shooter that arguably the men's game has ever seen. And then here's this kid, out of the middle of the country that's doing the same thing. So what happened when we had that fun ride, I did feel the pressure when we were in adversity. But, my spouse reminded me, she said, you are taking over one of the hardest jobs because you had one of the biggest personalities with one of the most fun teams, and there's a lot of change. So when I just stayed in my lane and just kept everybody being who they could become, and that's what you do every year with typical teams. And I knew this fan base understood that, though, or they wouldn't have sold out, right? Thank you to all of you that bought those tickets, by the way.
She takes bad shots at bad times.
Can't duplicate what you're not duplicating.
Caitlin should have broke that record in 4 years.
The delusional fan base that follows her disrespected the WNBA players by saying she's going to go in that league and tear it apart.
Reality is coming. There's levels to this thing.
I am unwilling to say that she is great yet.
I'll take that role. I'll take the bad guy role.
She don't play no defense.
This kid's on the wrong team.
She overpasses.
She's got the wrong skill set. This kid's in for a rude awakening.
She's the most popular women's basketball player who's ever lived. They don't like her because of all the publicity she's gotten.
I ain't answering no Caitlin Clark questions.
That is a common thing when the anointed one joins leagues. She is the league.
Wheeler finds Clark from the
Let them know about it, Caitlin.
through the lane, reverses it in.
You look superhuman playing against 18-year-olds, but you're going to come with some grown women that have been playing professional basketball for a long time.
Caitlin?
In the model still the same. There's one like a Fever rising. Another one. And another one. And another one.
But to me, that's not dominating.
Clark wins the pass, threads the needle by.
My goodness, it never gets old.
Clark.
No, he's not the same. You can have that look. I ain't mad.